Between 2024 and 2026, something began happening across America that no one in the government has been willing to fully address. 9 scientists, engineers, and researchers, all working at the absolute frontier of classified American knowledge, have died or disappeared under circumstances that range from deeply strange to completely inexplicable. Some vanished mid-hike in clear weather in front of witnesses. Some walked out of their front doors and were never seen again. Some were shot dead at their homes in the early morning hours. And one, a senior researcher with 25 years at one of the most powerful space laboratories on Earth, simply died, no cause of death ever released, no autopsy performed, no statement from his employer. These are not obscure people. They commanded billion-dollar military programs. They held patents on alloys used in America's most advanced rockets. They ran the institutions searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. They oversaw the most sensitive nuclear fusion research in the Western world. As of April 2026, 4 of the 9 remain missing. 3 are confirmed dead with no cause of death on public record. 2 were shot dead in their homes. No coordinated federal investigation has been announced. No agency has publicly connected any of the cases. And to this day, no one has offered a complete explanation. To understand this, we need to go back to the institutional landscape of American science in the early 2020s. A world of extraordinary secrecy, extraordinary stakes, and extraordinary overlap between civilian research and classified military programs. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, tracks asteroids that could end human civilization, builds instruments flying on military satellites, and quietly employs scientists whose work is indistinguishable from weapons development. Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico is the birthplace of the atomic bomb and remains one of the most classified research facilities on American soil. MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center in Boston is the largest laboratory at MIT and is directly connected to the Department of Energy, the Department of Defense, and the future of unlimited clean energy. The Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio oversees billions of dollars in research into directed energy weapons, advanced materials, space surveillance, and technology programs that never appear in any public budget. At each point in the network of cases, the institutional response has been the same: the minimum possible disclosure. JPL said nothing about Reza. NASA said nothing. Caltech's statement about Grillmare described him as having passed away suddenly without using the word shot. Wright-Patterson offered counseling services. The scientists and engineers working inside these institutions are, by definition, among the most deeply informed human beings on Earth about the technologies that shape the balance of global power. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then, something changed. It began quietly. Frank Werner Mayvald, aged 61, passed away on July 4th, 2024, in Los Angeles. He had spent 25 years at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. No cause of death was released. No autopsy was performed. NASA hasn't said a word about it. When the Daily Mail asked JPL to even confirm Mayvald had worked there, they declined, despite his achievements being listed on their own website. But 13 months earlier, another JPL scientist had also died, with no public explanation. Michael David Hicks a NASA JPL research scientist who worked there from 1998 to 2022, died on July 30th, 2023, at the age of 59. No public cause of death. He had worked on the DART project, NASA's test to determine whether humans could deflect a dangerous asteroid away from Earth. 2 JPL scientists, 2 years apart. Then the disappearances started. The Los Alamos Shadow, May and June 2025. Anthony Tony Chavez, a 78-year-old, longtime resident and retired employee of one of the nation's most sensitive nuclear research facilities, has been missing since early May 2025. Chavez was last seen leaving his home on foot. He reportedly departed without his wallet, keys, cigarettes, phone, or other personal items which were found inside the residence on a table. The Los Alamos Police Department conducted searches using cadaver dogs in Pueblo Canyon and surrounding trails. They found nothing. Almost a year later, no new information in the case has emerged. Even more strange, just weeks later, a second Los Alamos employee vanished under nearly identical conditions. Melissa Casillas, 53 years old, was last seen walking eastbound on NM 518 in Talpa, New Mexico, a few miles from her home on June 26, 2025. Authorities last saw her miles from her house, walking alone, without her wallet, phone, or keys. After she had uncharacteristically worked from home that day, her mobile devices, critically, had been wiped, reset to factory settings. 2 Los Alamos employees, both vanish within weeks of each other. Both leave behind all personal items. Both disappear on foot into the New Mexico landscape, as if simply deciding to cease to exist. The rocket scientist, June 22nd, 2025. Monica Jacinto Reza, a 60-year-old aerospace engineer and former technical fellow at Aerojet Rocketdyne, vanished on June 22, 2025, while hiking near Mount Waterman in the Angeles National Forest, California. She was last seen around 9:10 a.m., waving to a companion on the Upper West Ridge Trail, shortly before disappearing. Police say Reza was about 30 feet behind the person she was with, smiling and waving. When the person turned back around, she was gone. An extensive search involving dozens of agencies, helicopters, dogs, and drones concluded no trace of Reza has been found. Reza co-invented Mondaloy, a family of nickel-based superalloys now built into the engines, replacing Russian-made rockets for American national security launches. She held the patent. She spent decades as a technical fellow at Aerojet Rocketdyne, the highest technical rank in the company. And just months before her disappearance, she had accepted a new position at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, making her the 3rd JPL-connected individual to die or vanish in less than 2 years. Aerojet Rocketdyne issued no public statement about her disappearance. NASA issued no public statement. JPL issued no public statement. The plasma physicist, December 15, 2025. On the evening of December 15, 2025, Dr. Nuno Loureiro answered his door at his apartment building in Brookline, Massachusetts. Loureiro was shot and died from his injuries the following day. He was the Hermann Feshbach Professor of Physics at MIT and director of the MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center, MIT's largest lab. Authorities later identified the suspect as Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, a Portuguese physics graduate who had attended the same university program as Loureiro in Portugal between 1995 and 2000. Surveillance footage showed Valente had spent that December 15th walking along Commonwealth Avenue. By early evening, Valente began what police later described as pre-operational surveillance, circling Loureiro's neighborhood repeatedly. Valente's full motive, who he was acting for, whether alone, and why, remains unknown. The astrophysicist, February 16, 2026, Carl Johann Grillmeyer, a 67-year-old research scientist at Caltech, was fatally shot on the front porch of his home in Llano, California, early Monday morning, February 16, 2026. Grillmeyer was a scientist on prominent NASA telescope missions, including the Hubble Space Telescope, and had discovered water on multiple exoplanets. He was awarded the NASA Exceptional Scientific Achievement Medal in 2011. Freddie Snyder, 29, was arrested and subsequently linked to Grillmeyer's killing. Court records reveal that Snyder had been arrested approximately 2 months earlier for trespassing on Grillmeyer's property while carrying a rifle. That charge was later dismissed for unknown reasons, and Snyder was released on his own recognizance. A man found on a scientist's property carrying a loaded rifle. Released 2 months later, the scientist was shot dead. A potential motive for the deadly shooting remains unclear. The General, February 27, 2026. What the public learned 11 days after Grillmeyer's murder changed the entire tenor of the story. Retired Madge, Jen. William Neil McCasland, a former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, has been missing since February 27, when he disappeared from his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His phone, prescription glasses, and wearable devices were left behind in the house, while several other items were missing, including his wallet, hiking boots, and a .38 caliber revolver. A gray U.S. Air Force sweatshirt was found about 1.25 miles east of McCasland's home on March 7, 8 days after he disappeared. At AFRL, he led billions of dollars in advanced material sciences and future weapons research. Serving as Director of Special Programs also made McCasland Executive Secretary for the Special Access Program Oversight Committee, the body with full purview of all of America's most sensitive and secretive knowledge, capabilities, and programs. In other words, this man once had oversight of every single classified program in the United States military. McCasland had a brief association with the UFO community through Tom DeLonge, former frontman for Blink-182 and founder of the organization To the Stars. McCasland worked with Tom for a bit, shortly after his Air Force retirement, as an unpaid consultant on military and technical/scientific matters. And the professional connection to Monica Reza, the rocket scientist who had vanished 9 months earlier, was now being formally acknowledged by law enforcement. Reza and McCasland first connected after her patented nickel-based superalloy, Mondaloy, caught the Air Force general's attention. The commander who authorized it, the scientist who qualified the materials, the engineer who built the alloy, 3 vertices of one triangle, the complete human chain of custody for a superalloy that the United States cannot build next-generation rocket engines without. All 3 gone. Theory 1. Unrelated coincidences. Statistical noise. One explanation that law enforcement and many mainstream outlets have implicitly defaulted to is that these cases are simply not connected. People die. People go missing. Scientists are not immune to mental health crises, accidents, random violence, or personal tragedy. But this doesn't explain the institutional silence. The silence itself is a data point. Theory 2. Foreign intelligence operations. Another theory, taken seriously by former intelligence and law enforcement officials, is that one or more foreign state actors, Russia, China, or Iran are most frequently cited, have been systematically targeting Americans with access to sensitive aerospace, nuclear, and propulsion knowledge. Under this theory, the disappearances may represent extractions, individuals coerced or induced to leave voluntarily, while the deaths may represent eliminations of people who either refused to cooperate or knew too much to be allowed to defect. Theory 3. A pattern within the institutions themselves. The most controversial theory is that the connections between these individuals are not coincidental, not foreign, but institutional. Under this reading, what is being lost or removed is not just individual people, but specific, irreplaceable bodies of knowledge. A colleague of Carl Grillmer said, "He takes knowledge with him that will be irreplaceable." Where things stand, April 2026. Missouri Republican Representative Eric Burleson has publicly stated that he is deeply concerned about the pattern of disappearances and has been pushing for FBI involvement. It's remarkable that General McCasland apparently walked out of his home, left all of his devices, and never came back, Burleson told Fox News. 9 people, connected across institutions, across programs, across decades of the most sensitive work the American government funds, are gone. Some violently, some silently, some mysteriously. The institutions at the center of the story have said almost nothing, and the knowledge these people carried, that knowledge walked out the door with them. And maybe it was meant to.